Hello everybody. This week we will be covering the deployment of our solution, our API, to an instance of Azure, Microsoft Azure. Now I will be covering the deployment of this solution to an IIS instance. So that is, like, for example, Windows Server 2019, and that is a very common way of deploying .NET API. So first, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to create an instance of SQL Server database on Azure. So you're going to have to log in. You're going to have to create an account. As a student, you are entitled to, I believe, $100 worth of credit for educational purposes. So just go ahead and create that. It's just, I believe it's microsoft.azure.com. You can pull it up here. Yeah, that's not it. We don't want to go there. Just look up Azure. It'll pop up here. So you can create a login and use your student credentials. So log in, create a database. It's relatively straightforward. So just create a database and select that database. So we're going to be using our API that we used before. In this example, I'm just going to be using my Northwind example. So what we have to do first is we have to copy this to clipboard. So this here, our server name, this is what we're going to be connecting to. So this is our remote instance of SQL Server. We're just going to copy this to our clipboard. We're going to go to SQL Server Management Studio, and we got to connect to it. So when you are creating your database instance, you're going to have the option to set up a login. Just like in SQL Server, you can set up logins. So I'm going to disconnect from this, connect to the database engine, then once again you just paste it. So ensure that you use your SQL Server authentication login. So Gutierrez, then I'm going to enter my password. I'm going to connect to this. So it's going to connect right now. It's going to work. For you though, more than likely you're going to run into an issue where it's going to state that your IP is not allowed to connect to it. So what you can do is it'll likely give you an option here. It'll give you an option to go to Azure, or you can go to Azure itself, and you can add a firewall exception. So, or a rule, I'm sorry. So you can add a firewall rule and just add that rule just so that you can access it. This is of course important because we don't want any IP connecting to our database. We want just certain IPs, and this goes back to why we create our API. We can limit the connections to our database by using an API where just one I shouldn't say client, but where one machine is connecting to it, and in our instance it'd be our API, our machine that's running the API. So once that's done, once you have permission to run that, we can go back to SQL Server Management Studio. Once it's connected, we have to create a new database, because this here, now I already created the Northwind database, but in this example I'm going to get rid of it. So this is going to take some time to delete. I'm going to click OK on here. Oh, or maybe not. It likes to take its time, as you will notice here. Or maybe it was just a one-time thing. It could be. So we're going to click on our databases here. We're going to click on New Database. We're going to give it its time. And what I'll likely end up doing is, for these operations that may end up taking quite a bit of time, I'll just pause the recording and then go back. So that's what I'm going to do now. And just as I hit that button, it came right up. So we're gonna select a database name. In this case, I'm gonna select Northwind. Select OK. Give it its time to execute once again. I will note that this here script, the script that we use to install our database, it doesn't work right out of the box, so we have to make some modifications to it. Just got to make sure that this is done, and it's not. So I'm going to go all the way back, bring all this here stuff back. If we try to execute this script, this is going to be an issue. This is also going to be an issue. And so all of this here is going to be an issue. Also, the use Northwind is going to be an issue. So I'm actually going to execute this, and this is still creating the database. So I'm going to pause once again. So it's completed. So I'm going to try to execute this. I'm going to save this as well, and we'll be able to tell that there's an issue. Of course, we also have not we do not have our updated database list here. It has not populated. So I'm going to go ahead and reload all of this. So here is Northwind. If we look, we shouldn't have any tables because nothing has actually been done to this database yet. So we do not have any tables. So if we go ahead and execute this query, number one, you're going to want to select your Northwind database. If we execute this, this is going to be an issue. It's going to be problematic. So what we can do is we can get rid of some of this here stuff. So you can leave no count. We're going to get rid of use master. We're going to get rid of execute create database. And then we're going to get rid of the set quoted identifier. I'm going to save this. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to ensure that I have selected my Northwind database here, which it is selected, but if you're prompted to select it, just ensure that you do have Northwind selected. Otherwise, this will not work. So we're going to execute this, and you will likely get one error, but the data will be inserted and the schema will be created. We have disconnected, so we're going to reconnect to this. And I do have a reference to use Northwind, so this will be problematic as well. So I'm going to stop this query. I'm going to select Northwind. If it doesn't populate, just enter Northwind manually. I'm going to pause. Once this is done loading, I'm going to come back. Okay. Maybe I'm not going to pause. Going to ensure that I didn't pause it. Yep, we are still going. I'm going to log out and then log back in. If it lets me. Yep, I'm just going to pause the video. I just shut off SQL Server Management Studio. I restarted it just because it was it froze. So I'm going to log back in. Select databases, and it looks like our database did not populate, so I'm just going to go and create Northwind once again. I'm going to pause, do all this stuff off screen, and once I have that database and the script pulled up, I'm going to execute that script. So now that it's running again, and I have my database here selected, I'm going to go ahead and execute this query. I have removed all of the use references. Select execute here. This will take, in my case, it's been taking approximately 30 to 45 seconds to execute this query. Some cases it's been a little bit faster, other cases it's been a little bit slower. It will completely depend on your internet connection and some other items. And of course I did not select Northwind. The command's completed successfully. When I did this the last time, I had just one error, and it was just a character in the incorrect position. This time it executed perfectly. I will be uploading this to the week 13 folder. So what we can do now is we can refresh this. We can look through our tables, allow this to populate, and yes, our tables are now here. So I'm going to select the top, or edit the top 200 rows, and our data is here. So now what we can do is we can go to our solution, which I have over here. What we can do now is we can open up SQL Server Object Explorer. We can also look it up. So SQL Server, it'll pop up. If it doesn't, make sure to install this. What we can do then is, well, now that I've deleted this, this is not going to be here. So we have to log in. I'm going to remove this. I'm going to add my server name, which is available over here once again. Select SQL Server Authentication, then enter your credentials. Connect to this. Once you connect to it, view your databases. Now this is very important. Ensure that you do not select the connection string for the database. Ensure that you select the connection string for Northwind. And I shouldn't have said the database, I should have said the connection. So select Northwind, select properties. We can view our connection string here. Copy this connection string. This is assuming that you already have your what do you call it, an existing solution here, an existing solution with EF Core Power Tools with your data context and all these other nice items. So what we can do now is we can go to our app settings.json. I already have it open here, but we can also go over here, go on our app settings.json. What we can do then is change our connection string. So we're going to change our connection string here. We're going to paste our new connection string. We're going to enter our password. This is just a temporary database, so I don't mind if this gets out. What we can do then is just look over. It all looks good, not missing any characters. Also, another important thing, ensure that your initial catalog is set here. This here specifies which database you're going to be accessing. What we're going to do then is we're going to select our project here. Then we're going to click EF Core Power Tools, reverse engineer. Once again, we're going to repeat some of the process. We're going to enter our server name, which is Gutierrez.database, I believe. .windows.net. Then we're going to authenticate. We're going to test our connection. Looks good. Select the database, in my case Northwind. select OK, select OK once again. This all should be review. This here is selected. We can select OK here. It's going to generate its code. What we're going to do now is we're going to try to run this. Hopefully if we encounter any issues here, we'll be able to address them in the video. Select execute. And in this case it worked perfectly. So this is excellent. The reason that this is excellent is because now the database doesn't have to be running on your machine. We can run a remote version of SQL Server. It is very easy to set up. It really is. We just go to our Azure website and set up some items here, and it's relatively straightforward. So now that this is working, we have to deploy our solution. We have two options. Our first option is we can right click on here, select publish, and we can set up a new publishing instance here. So we can select Azure App Service, and it'll likely prompt you to log in. You can log in and follow some of the prompts. Create an app service instance. I believe you can just select that one right there. Create an API management API. Select finish. And then what we can do is we can set up our connection string. Now this may be problematic since the password has not been entered, or it may just be that it's not displaying the password here. So we can handle it that way, add some other items here. So just follow the prompts, or we can do something else. We can also configure it by selecting SQL Server Database and then adding your connection string, so on and so forth, and then we'll publish. Now in my instance I don't have this is not running currently. In your instance you could set it up to run. All you'd have to do is publish it, go here and make your calls to that API. No different than in Postman. So just add your API route, and then add some of the add where it's going to be making the calls to, and then add your routes. So API products, just like we would when we are making calls to it from Swagger. So once this is set up, that's good. We can make calls to that endpoint, but that's not super common in industry. It can be. Some companies have decided to go completely remote. A lot of companies though still deploy to a web server, to an IaaS web server. So that's what I want to focus on. So what we can do, we can select new, select folder, select next, ensure that you have set the proper directory. So in this case I'm just going to CMSC 2240, create a new folder. I'm just going to call this TLCRUD deployment. Select that folder, select finish, publish to that folder. Now if we go to this here directory, we have all of our references. Everything that's necessary is going to be stored here. What we can do now is, if you have an instance of Windows Server 2019 or any version of Windows Server that is compatible with .NET 6.0, we can take this and paste it into the directory that's going to be looked at when executing the API. And it really is that simple. All you have to do is just paste it into that directory. You could also connect to that directory right here. So if you just set the IP in here and then set the directory name, and then just paste it there. You could also do that by, nope, we don't want to publish. I'm just going to let it do its thing. We can also handle it here. So web server IIS, and just follow the prompts. Provide the server name and some credentials, and you'll be good to go. So like I said, this is very important, as our code it's good to have our code running locally. It really is. It's nice for debugging, but in a real world scenario where we are deploying a product to a customer, this here program has to be able to be executed by many individuals that don't have access to the source code for obvious reasons. So by deploying our solution to a server and being able to make calls to that server, we're able to get that information out to anybody that has the credentials to make calls to it. So I hope you guys and gals and everyone else enjoyed this video. Reach out if there's any issues. Thank you for watching.